Hello, everybody. I am Barbara Rogers. I'm the president-elect of NANP for 2020, and I am absolutely thrilled to be here today with Dr. Joel Carter. He is an accomplished palliative care physician, an author, a speaker, quite the storyteller, and an artist. I know you're going to be thrilled with what he has to say at our conference, and what we want to do today is to give you just a little bit of background, a little bit of a teaser perhaps on what his talk will be about at the conference. And so Dr. Carter, or if I am able to call you Joe,
Absolutely.
I appreciate that. Joel, if we can just get started and have a little talk, and I think our viewers are gonna find this extremely interesting. As I mentioned to you just a minute ago before we started the recording, I did take a few minutes to watch a TEDx talk of yours. And honestly, I was blown away by it. I mean, I just felt that, first of all, it was so compelling and will be for our membership and those that attend the conference. But I was actually really moved by listening to the way that you present the information. So not to put any pressure on you at all. But something that came to my mind as I was watching that and then reading about you is that you are a palliative care physician. And I think there are some mistaken thoughts about what that is, and people confuse it with other things. And if you could just maybe tell us briefly what that is and how you got into that, or how that led you to what you're doing today.
Right. Well, thank you so much, and I'm really excited about the invitation and being able to present at the conference, and sort of coming a little bit out of left field, you know, from a different field, perhaps, and sort of coming to Newport as a bit of a stranger, you know, in town. And sometimes the interdisciplinary sharing, I think, between fields really grows each side of the podium, so to speak. So I am coming to this conference as much of a avid learner, and the timing for this, for me in my own life, I think is going to be a great opportunity. So you mentioned I'm a palliative physician. I also say that I'm a recovering physician, that there's a lot to recover through medicine and the training. And I was originally an emergency physician, and some people have this sense, well, isn't that completely opposite? You know, as an emergency physician, I needed to know what the diagnosis was not. And as a palliative care doctor, I don't really care what it is, because the most important thing is the person who I'm caring for. People confuse palliative care with only end of life, and that's not true. Some people confuse us with hospice. That's not true, although hospice is a palliative program that in the United States is based in the community. And when the focus really becomes quality of life, when treatments aren't possible for hospice teams, but I work in the hospital and I'm always looking for ways to improve the quality of life with patients who have not just incurable disease, but opportunity to cure, but have very complicated symptoms. So you could think of me as a symptomatologist. It's a very creative field, because if I based everything that I try to do for the sake of my patients on evidence-based medicine, I wouldn't be able to help 80% of the patients that I help with. And I often talk to my patients when they have worries about seeing a palliative care physician. I sort of share, you know, what the three most important things are when someone has a very advanced illness or complex illness. And the first thing is performance status. If we can find ways of alleviating pain so people can do more, they're going to do better. The second thing, where I think there's a lot of crossover with the work that your organization does, the second thing that's so important is nutrition. And if we can't eat well, if we can't maintain our nutrition, we're not going to do well. And the third thing that a lot of physicians don't talk much about, but I think is very important, is really the strength of someone's will to live, which is based on how well they're feeling. And so if people are worried about seeing me, I sort of say, what do you think about seeing a will to live specialist? And that lights their eyes up. And I think it gives us an opportunity to really find very creative ways to not only address very complicated symptoms, which if people have fear about, I can alleviate, because I'm always hopeful that I can always improve things for people. But I think the second thing that is so important in the healing relationship is really the sense of connection between people on both sides of the stethoscope or on both sides of really the patient client encounter. So I think there's a lot of parallels between probably the work that your organization and your members do, as well as myself at really this formal end of complex illness. But, you know, I'll also say that my best teachers are really my patients, because they teach me about what's most important each day.
Sure, of course. It's so interesting to hear that you do consider the nutritional aspect as far as somebody's overall care, because of course that's what most of our practitioners are, in fact, in the field of holistic nutrition. And we try very hard to take into consideration, or part of our foundation really is mind, body, spirit, that you have to consider a person as an entire entity, all of them. Even when we're looking at something as basic as nutrition. So to hear that you consider that is a pretty powerful message.
Well, as I said, I think it's, along with performance status, from a physiologic perspective, for someone to do as well and to withstand some of the very toxic treatments, clearly nutrition is paramount. And so I think there's going to be great learning on both sides of the podium, that I get this invitation to come and be a great learner. So I'm really looking forward to the opportunity. And I'm sure that a lot of the things that I'll pick up is going to benefit, you know, the tribe of my patients at this end, and maybe, you know, certainly within my health system. So I'm really looking forward to the opportunity.
Sure. Well, as are we. Just to talk very generally, of course, we don't want to give anything away right now, but what would you say, the topic, your session description on our website is just fabulous, I believe, a keynote presentation of the human journey. How would you, in your words, describe what you think will be most important for our members that will view you come May?
Well, I think, I hope one of the big takeaways, and really what I share and what I think is important, is really the lessons that I have from my patient stories. And really, I think the power of storytelling, not only as it impacts hope and meaning, and if you saw the TEDx, how storytelling even impacts symptoms, even complex pain, even complex neuropathic pain from cancers. So I think within the midst of clinical encounters, especially in medicine, it's rare that physicians really enter and engage within a patient's life story because of a lot of the stresses and about the timing and about the electronic medical records and the insurance claims and everything. But I think that one of the most important bonds between healer and patient is really connecting within the story of a patient's life. I think, you know, the most important thing that I think I ask first about my patients, it has nothing to do with their clinical journey. It's, where are you from? Tell me a little bit about you. Oh, so I'm up here in Minnesota right now. And usually they might say something about, well, I'm from Fargo, North Dakota. And then I have this in where I say, well, I'm from Winnipeg. And they'd say, you know, we get up to Winnipeg often, and we start this whole talk, and it's about, I think, building trust and having a sense of commonality. I think that in the big picture, you know, there's this little blue dot in the Milky Way galaxy, that they have these conscious beings that's who we are. And try to have a sense of what's meaning and purposeful in terms of our life's journey. I think the only thing that's made sense to me is that we're really just here to take care of each other and to be present in the moment and to show up for our stories, even the hard stories. So this human journey, it's a complicated gig. And it's complicated even when we're not ill. So I think one of the most important things for me is to show up for my patients and being in the present moment. But I have some pretty powerful stories of amazing life lessons where, you know, life isn't so much about medicine; it's much more about mystery. So I think if those are some of the take-home messages from the presentation, I think I'd be very happy. So.
Well, I can tell you right now, I know our audience and our membership are going to be thrilled with your presentation, and they will have a number of messages I'm sure they will take home, and probably even some very important facts and information that they can bring back to their own personal practices, which is, you know, what we hope as well. So I can't thank you enough for joining me today. This has been a real pleasure to meet you. I'm looking forward to meeting you in person at our conference in May. And thank you again. We look forward to it.
Thanks again, and look forward to being in Newport. Take care.
Take care.